I've been trying to write a video on why you should play the Xeno series for months. I have multiple unfinished copies laying around, and the reason I haven't finished any of these videos yet is simply for the reason that I love the series so much, and I think they are so important, that I don't want to make a bad video about the series and be responsible for somebody not playing them. In all my other scripts, I would go on and on trying to prove that I love the series, and also going way too in-depth about the history behind the series. But all I have to say really is that it is my favorite video game series. I don't need to prove it to you with, like stats and everything. And now that Xenoblade 3 has been announced and it will be coming out in September of 2022, I think it's a good time for me to step out of the shadows and and finally finish a video about this series. I want this video to be two things. The first thing I want it to be is a focus on information that can help somebody get into the series. So what I mean by information is every single game that is in the series, the order they're in, how all the sub-series work, all that kind of information, so that you're not looking at this blob of games and confused. I'm going to organize all that for you in front of you and give you information for if these games even are for you, and if you're on the fence, ways to approach the games to see if you should play the series and stuff like that. And this section is unscripted, but I was a little bored with the video just being all about information, so along with that, I also want to include my personal stories about the series, how I got into the series, specific memories I have relating to when I was playing games in the series, because what I realized is really important to me while looking at comments on other videos I've made, particularly the Berserk one. I really loved it when people shared their stories around a particular series, be it manga, a video game, whatever, and things that were going on in their life, or the ways that the series impacted them. I really love hearing stories like that, and I do have a lot that revolve around the Xeno series. A lot of them are just, sort of fun, nostalgic memories, and I want to share some of those. One, because, I personally think they're fun, as they are my stories, and the other, because I could sell you on the games, like, hey, you like science fiction, bucko? You like philosophy? I could sell you on the games that way, and I will try to do that. But I also love being sold on games by somebody's genuine passion and stories and experiences, and so that's what I would like to provide with my stories. So there will be a section of that as well. The first thing I want to cover is what the Xeno series is. It is a collection of games with the prefix Xeno, and all are made under the direction of a man named Tetsuya Takahashi. There are 9 games in this series, 10 if you include the fact that one of the games is a remaster, but I'm going to keep using the number 9. These 9 games can be separated into 3 sub-series. What I mean by sub-series is all the games contain the prefix Xeno, but each sub-series is independent of the other. These sub-series are the Xenogears sub-series, the Xenosaga sub-series, and the Xenoblade sub-series. A way to help picture how each sub-series is independent of one another is think of something like Final Fantasy, where Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10, they all have nothing to do with one another. They all fall into the Final Fantasy series, but Final Fantasy 7 is its own game outside of everything else. They just cover similar topics, themes, have similar gameplay elements, and so that's how each sub-series works. They all have their similarities and connections to one another, but you can play Xenosaga without having ever played Xenoblade, or play Xenoblade without having ever played Xenogears. They're all independent in sense of their characters, their worlds, their stories, their lore, but they are all connected through the themes they cover, their ideas, these sort of elements that are within the game. That is the best way to think of how they are all within the same series, but each sub-series is independent. Now, what game is in each sub-series? The Xenogears sub-series consists of one game, and that is Xenogears. The Xenosaga sub-series is a trilogy, and they are all directly connected, like the Lord of the Rings movies. So that is Xenosaga 1, 2, and 3. Each of these games has a longer name when you include the subtitle, but I'm going to save that for a little later because you'll understand once I get there. Now the games in the Xenoblade series are Xenoblade Chronicles, Xenoblade Chronicles X or Cross they call it in Japan, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna the Golden Country, and Xenoblade Chronicles Future Connected. The first Xenoblade Chronicles does have two versions of it. There is the original Wii release and the remaster for the Switch, and if you are going to play Xenoblade, I recommend doing the Switch version. I've played both. The Wii one was what I played first, and I do prefer the Switch version. Now what I would like to go over is who would like these games, sort of by discussing their features, their strong points, their weak points, that kind of stuff. The strongest selling point of this series is their stories, their narrative, their characters, their lore, all that kind of stuff. But with that comes a lot of cutscenes, and some long cutscenes. It is very worth it. But if you're the kind of person who doesn't care about story and you skip cutscenes, you skip dialogue, these are not the games for you. These are JRPGs with a lot of science fiction elements. Officially, at least like Wikipedia officially, which, that's kind of official to me. I'll take it. They fall into the subgenre of science fantasy. So there are like mechs, lots of space stuff, lots of science fiction, but then also fantasy. Pretty much all the games have some sort of like ether magic system. The games are all heavy with philosophical and psychological themes, and they're often extremely littered with religious references to Judeo-Christian religions and Gnostic religions. The philosophical and psychological themes of the games often draw inspiration from Freud, Carl Jung, and Nietzsche. They're not intellectually light games at all. This isn't give the mouse a cookie. You have to be somebody who's into the more deeper side of things. If you're the type like Tyler, the middle schooler, who thinks games aren't deep, they shouldn't do stories, you call everything pseudo-intellectual if they even try to do something interesting, because he's read a book a couple times and now he has an intellectual superiority complex and he goes on Reddit. This series requires a bit of that, sort of games are allowed to be intellectual open-mindedness. If you really want to know how potentially pretentious, I don't like using that word, but I want to use it anyway, pretentious the games can come across, is that before, when I left out the subtitles for the Xenosaga games, I saved it specifically for this section. Each game is subtitled after a Nietzsche book, as the games deal with themes from these works. Xenosaga 1 subtitle is Xenosaga. I don't know how to speak or pronounce German words, but I'm going to try anyway just because the subtitles are in German. So Xenosaga 1 subtitle is Der Wille Macht, or Will to Power. Xenosaga 2 subtitle is Jansuits Wungut und Boss. I tried. I am putting in my maximum effort for this. I'm sorry, German people. Or that can be translated as Beyond Good and Evil. And then Xenosaga 3 subtitle is also Sprach Zarathustra, or Thus Spoke Zarathustra. I really put in my best effort. I can't remember the last time I heard German words, so I put in my... I'm sorry. If the fact that those subtitles are so in your face about, like, philosophy, and that makes you uninterested, you might want to, bow out, come back for a rain check or something. But if those subtitles draw you in more and you're like, Saturday night pondering philosophy, these my games, welcome, you're going to want to try this out. It's not your, these are not your Friday night battle royale with the boys over a few adult beverages. I know I just hyped up how intellectual the games were, but don't take that too far. They are heavier and denser narratives, but you know, it's not like reading a philosophy textbook like I probably just made it sound. So don't take the words I just said too far. They are heavier games, and they're not for somebody who isn't interested in those kinds of things. But you know, there's still boom boom explosions. You know, it's not always completely in your face about it, going overboard with all the religious references and all the philosophy and everything. That it's all very, for the most part, very subtle and well built in naturally into the narrative. But all that being said as well, again, coming back around, I would say the one I recommend to the average person the least would easily be the Xenosaga games, because they are probably the ones that get up their butt the most a little bit, as well as they're just generally, from a both gameplay and narrative perspective, the least accessible. Now looking at the games from a more gameplay perspective, Xenogears and Xenosaga, these games are sort of slightly more traditional turn-based. It's not like complete, you know, no ATB gauge, no speed kind of turn-based, but it is a turn-based style. Xenoblade has a hybrid system of active turn-based, where the characters fight enemies that are physically on the map and can move freely while their abilities are on cooldown times. People often compare it to MMOs. I've actually never played an MMO, so I can't really say very much. But people often compare the Xenoblade games to plain, like, single-player MMOs. I personally, this is my personal opinion, I've run out of script. I just kind of wanted to record, but now I'm going to keep going. I personally think that the gameplay of the Xenogears and Xenosaga games is their weaker parts. I think for Xenogears it's pretty alright. For Xenosaga, it's a hit and a good couple misses, especially Xenosaga 2. That one's just kind of a miss entirely in the gameplay section. The story is great, but from a gameplay perspective, you're gonna be like staring at a wall whenever you're in combat, because that might be less frustrating. So I mean, that of course is a big negative to the series. You can't be somebody who the entire reason you play video games is just for that sweet battle royale victory, you know, fast FPS gameplay. You gotta, you know, you have to be a little more patient, you know. If a system isn't that poppin', you know, just because a game's not game of the year, you're gonna drop it. You have to be a little patient and a little more understanding for systems that might not be the best. But when we get to the gameplay of the Xenoblade games, you know, that's when, you know, come on in, boys who just like good gameplay, don't care about the story. Oh man, I love the Xenoblade gameplay. It is so much fun. Xenoblade 1, yes sir, that's a great game. AI isn't the best, but hey, what can you do? Xenoblade X takes one and expands on it more, gives you more customization options. Yeah, that's a good game. And it's got mechs if you like that too. It's up to you. Xenoblade 2. Oh boy, a lot of people think this game is kind of slow, the people who don't like it that much. And it does have a slow start, but once you get into it, once you have 3 characters on your team, and boy, there's so much going on at one time. Even though it might seem slow, it's not slow at all. Now I'd like to go over, just, you know, quickly for you for a little more information. How do you play each of these games? And I want to tell you how I played each one as well. So for Xenogears, it is a PS1 game, so you can play it on the PS1. Pretty sure it's also available on the PS3 store. I know that PlayStation completely messed up how you can get games on that store, so it's probably kind of difficult to get it there now. And then the other option is emulation. Maybe if they sold it in easier ways, I would have played it by not emulating it. I don't support piracy, by the way. Xenosaga 1, 2, and 3 are all on PS2. Maybe if they could like sell it, I don't know. I emulated it. If they sold it more availably, I would totally purchase it. You know, if they put the games on Steam, full price buy, no doubt about it. If they would, you know, like sell it That's just me. Now, Xenoblade 1 is available on Switch, Wii, or Wii emulation. The Switch version, like I said before, is preferred since it also does come with Future Connected. They're a 2-in-1 bundle. Both versions are great. The first time I played it on the Wii. The second time I played it, which I 100%ed it, I did it on the Switch. Xenoblade X is for Wii U or Wii U emulation. If they brought it to anything other than Wii U, like, I don't know, PC, I wouldn't have emulated it again. I'm not buying a Wii U just for one game. Xenoblade 2, Switch. Xenoblade 2 Torna, Switch. Xenoblade 1 Future Connected, Switch. Since most of the games kind of are on Switch and emulating the Switch is kind of hard, the only reason I own a Switch essentially is because of this series. This is, it is my Xenoblade machine. Breath of the Wild, great addition. That's just a big bonus, but I bought my Switch specifically to play the Xenoblade games, and I'm extremely, tight with money, so it was not an easy decision to make, but I love the series so much, I was like, alright, we gotta do it. Before I really get into, like, good orders to play the games in, I want to go over how long they are, because this could be another pro or con for somebody. Here's a graph I made. So all these numbers are based off of, except for the one that says my numbers, all these numbers are based off of howlongtobeat.com. I have separated it into how long the main category takes, how long the main plus extra category takes, and how long the completionist category takes. I have a total for each sub-series as well, which is the Blade total, Gears is the only one, and then the Saga total. As you can see, Xenoblade is easily the longest of them all. Also, additionally as well, I didn't include the times for Xenoblade Wii for everything except for my numbers, because I would rather people go and play Definitive Edition. Even though the Wii one is still good, I just didn't want to cause more confusion, so I just left those empty. You can look at this based on the type of person you are and how you play. So looking at all the Xenoblade games, Torna and Future Connected are much smaller games, but all the other ones, they take a long time. Just everything just for main takes a long time. These are definitely longer JRPGs. When you go into the main plus extra, the Blade games are the one that get the most additional time. Gears moves a little bit, but Saga really doesn't move all that much. Now for completionists, Blade takes another massive jump, Gears another decent jump, and then Saga relatively not that massive of a jump. Now if you want to look at my numbers as well, a lot of them are not confirmed, like Xenoblade Wii, that's just a guess. Definitive Edition, checked my Switch, that's recorded. Blade 2, check my Switch, that's recorded. Blade X, another guess. Torna, confirmed. Future Connected, confirmed. Gears, that's another guess. And then all the sagas is also another guess. I just, based on the numbers and then what I feel like I remember seeing, those are the numbers I put down. But as you can see, overall, this is not a small series to play. You're in it for the long haul if you want to play all these games. This is more than your afternoon. But now that I've said all that, I want to give people clarity on the best way to play this series. So easily, first, just right out of it, if you're sure that you want to dedicate to this series, and we're just, checking in on this just to make it a little bit more sure, I recommend playing it in chronological release order. So, Xenogears, Xenosaga, Xenoblade, all in chronological release order. That, if you're completely sold and ready to go, that's always how I prefer to play series, and that's definitely what I recommend. Now, for those who aren't completely sold yet and want to, dip into the series, I recommend dipping in with the Blade series first. I will tell you how I played this series. I played Xenoblade 1 first for the Wii. I didn't even know all these other games existed. It was in like 2013 or 2014. So most of the other Blade games weren't even out, and I didn't know that the rest of the series beforehand existed. So I played Xenoblade, and then later on, I learned that the other games existed. So I went back from Xenoblade, played Gears, played Saga, came back and played Xenoblade X, Xenoblade 2, all the expansions, and then I replayed Xenoblade 1. And I plan on going back and replaying Xenoblade 2, going for a full completionist run on that. I really look forward to that. But yeah, that is a way I honestly do recommend going about it. If you want to sample it to make sure this is something you're into and you're not as into the old school JRPGs, I definitely recommend starting with Xenoblade and then going back if you do like that. If you do have a preference for old school ones, I would again recommend starting with Xenogears. But if you're more of a new school guy, I think playing all the Blades by itself is perfectly acceptable, and if you like it enough, you can go back and play Gears and then Saga, because like I said, they're all disconnected. So I think even though starting from the beginning is preferred, I don't think it is out of question to play all the Blade games before the other ones. I think that's a very standard way that people play the series. Quickly before the next section, there are a couple things that I need to mention. One, when it comes to the songs I used in this video, the soundtracks in these games are honestly S tier, especially the Blade ones. Gears 2, Saga has some absolute crankers, but there are so many good songs, and I definitely didn't use the best songs. That was kind of on purpose. One, so that you could experience them for the first time in the games, and two, because a lot of them have like spoilers in the names, so I didn't want to spoil anything at all with the song titles, so I did a bunch of the most basic songs. And now, coming up is the final section. The sort of info section is all over. If everything I said sold you on it, fantastic. If everything I said did not sell you on it, you should reconsider that and go and play all the series, at least Blade. You really gotta play Blade. But now, if you're not interested in my personal stories, thank you, have a great day. And if you are, that's what this next section is. So this was completely unscripted. I didn't even plan on doing this when I started recording this video, but I was in the zone, and the further I get into this, the more in the zone I get. So it's completely unscripted. For the most part, unless I made some like annoying mouth noises or like grunted to clear my throat, I didn't edit it at all, so it is very slow, but I wanted it to retain its genuine pace. I actually don't really go, even though I say I'm going to, I don't really go into specifics on why I love the series. I just give some I just talk about some fun and nostalgic memories that I have that relate to each game, sort of how I got into the game, or things that went on while I was playing the game that I found very memorable and fun to talk about. So I just kind of got in the groove and told little stories, and if you're interested in that, that's what the rest of the video is, and I hope you enjoy it, and if not, I'm glad you got this far. Have a great day. Sure, this video could be completely informational, but I wanted to include this section that was genuine, and even if it makes this video a little bit less informational and somebody clicks off, that's okay. This is my channel, and it is all about being genuine and being honest and being open. So I want to share my story with the Xeno series, just so you understand why I love it so much. I have no idea why it came to this. This is when I started getting more into video games. One of my friends was kind of a bad influence on me. I was a good kid, but he got me into video games and anime a lot more. I was already into him, but he sent me over the edge, and I had played the first Final Fantasy around this time and enjoyed it. and hadn't really played other JRPGs in my life except like Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. So I started getting more into games and interested in JRPGs, and the only consoles I had at the time were a Wii and an Xbox 360, both of which aren't very good for JRPGs or anything. So I remember going online and, just looking up best games for this system and just like looking at the list on Google. And I remember whenever I would look that up for the Wii, I would see the name Xenoblade Chronicles. And I'm not sure what it was, but it just really drew me in. I would click on it, go to the GameStop link. This is like 2013, 2014. I was probably 16 or 17 at this time. I know that because I want to get to this part later, but when I drove to GameStop to get the game, I wasn't driving with my parents, so I obviously had gotten my license at that point. But I would go onto the GameStop link more occasionally than I should, and I'd see Xenoblade, and it's like, gameplay, graphics, whatever other things they had on the GameStop website, all 9.5s or whatever, just absolutely great scores. I don't even remember if I watched the trailer, but there was something about it where I am very financially, I don't spend money at all. This has been a problem for my entire life, but I do not spend money. That's usually a plus, and sometimes it's a minus. And this game was $50, and I was like, am I really gonna spend $50? But eventually I went to the store, I picked up Xenoblade for $50, it said it was used, and I was like, I'm about to buy this, and I bought it. I was really excited. I went home, and later that night, I popped it in. And I'm pretty sure on that first night, I played like 5 or 6 hours. I was really, really into it. I didn't want to stop. I'm sure I had to stop for whatever reason, be it school or something. But I did not want to stop playing, and I kept playing. And this is really embarrassing to say, but I won't say I dropped the game, but I definitely stopped playing it for a while. I was an idiot back in my day, and I did not know how to play JRPGs very well. So I got to a boss that I got stuck on. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna, stop for now. And that happened twice in the game. The second time when I came back, I was like, alright, we're playing this game. I went and grinded out for like 5 hours because I was too under-leveled because I didn't do any side quests. And then I finally beat the boss after like a 30-minute battle. It was a lot of fun. And then when I beat the game, this is so disappointing, but my brother came home with some of his friends. It was like 11 o'clock at night. I was at the end of a massive JRPG. I had over 80 hours into this thing. The ending is absolutely crazy. And then my brother's friend and him come downstairs and, sit in front of the TV. They're all talking. And I'm trying to have this, religious experience with this video game, and they're ruining the vibe. By the way, this this also happened with Metal Gear Solid 4. I got to the end of Metal Gear Solid 4, and then here come my brother and some of his friends, and they keep talking and like, sort of making fun of the game a little bit. And it's like, come on, guys, I'm trying to vibe here. This is amazing. Leave me alone. But that's where it started. After that, I was like, I love this. This is amazing. This is now one of my favorite games of all time. When I was in school, this was when I was in high school still. Sometimes during study hall or whatever, I'd just look up some cutscenes from the game and look up other people playing the game, and just watch them having a good time. And that's kind of what this series it is for me. I love. It's one of those things where you like it so much that you get excited that somebody else is going to play it. You know, like my friend, he's played Xenoblade 1, Xenogears, Xenosaga. He hasn't played Xenoblade 2 or X yet, but I know he's going to love them. And that gets me so excited that he's going to get to play these games for the first time. That's the kind of series it is to me. So, after that, I think I'm in college at this point. Yeah, I'm in college at this point when I really find out that Xenogears exists. And I'm like, what? There's more to this? I understand that they're not connected and whatever, but it's like, you know, there's more than this? Holy crap, I gotta get in on this. And I finally did. I played Xenogears in college. Wow. Games are allowed to do this? Then I was 100% sold on the series from there. I went on and played Xenosaga a couple years later. I don't know what took me so long, but it took me a couple years to get to Xenosaga. And then this is one of my favorite experiences with the series. When I beat Xenosaga 3, there was something about the ending. I don't know what it was. I'm in college at this point. I live off campus. So the night I finally beat Xenosaga, there was something about the ending that I absolutely loved, and I know the music had part of it to do with it, because the ending music is so good. And when I beat it, you know, the game made me cry, and it was amazing, and I completely lost touch with reality. I was, you know, so absorbed by it that once I finished it, I was sitting in my, you know, tiny 9x10 or whatever room with the bed that took up over half the room at my desk, and that was all that existed in the world. There was no world outside my room. It didn't feel like the fact that I was a college student was even real. It didn't feel like that the next day I was going to go back, get on the bus, go to school, and in between classes I'm going to go to that little study room that not many people know about and sit in there and work on stuff. It didn't feel like that even existed. That was a part of my life, that was reality. And I was also going to the gym later that night. So it took me like 20 minutes just to get out of my room, and then once I did, I had to make dinner before going to the gym. And I was making dinner. It was like it was spaghetti with something else in it, and as I was making the spaghetti, I was like, what the heck is this? Is this real? Absolutely nothing felt real, and I'm not gonna say it felt good, but it was still it was a super interesting experience. And you know, after I left the room, you know, just my room and the kitchen became the only realities in this world. And then when I went to the gym, I was like driving down the road. It's like, what the heck is this? What's going on? None of this is real. I got to the gym, I put in my headphones and I put on the music from the very end of the game. And I was in the gym trying not to cry. That was my goal for the gym. I kept listening to that music over and over again, and my eyes would start watering up, and I really wanted to cry, but I was in the middle of a college gym, so I just like, you know, tense up and stare at the ground. It was such a weird experience and so interesting, but I really love that story. And then I went and then when I played Xenoblade X, like I mentioned, I emulated it, and I was using a PS3 controller at the time, and I was using the wire it came with, along with some kind of suspicious program. in order to use it on a PC. And as I was at the very end of the game, in the middle of the final boss fight, and then the controller broke. Like it just stopped working. And what it actually ended up eventually being was the wire itself was broken, not the controller. But I didn't know that at the time. So what I eventually had to do was get some other suspicious program to use my Switch Joy-Cons in order to play the game. And that was one of the most miserable experiences gaming. I would have done so much extra stuff from the game. But what the program for the Switch Joy-Cons did was it picked them up over Bluetooth, and the connection was so bad, sometimes the input delay would be a literal 3 seconds. So what I had to do was I had to go out and grind for levels some, just so that I could be a high enough level so that delay didn't cause too many problems. And then I went and beat the final boss. I had to beat it over and over again, because first I kept trying to beat it with the PS3 controller. I'd get like halfway through and then stop working again, so all that effort would go to waste. But then I had to do that with the Joy-Cons as well, and because the delay would always ruin me. So it became this absolutely horrible experience just trying to beat the final boss, because my controllers were all crapping out. But I eventually did, and I really look forward to going back to that game and playing more with a controller that doesn't crap out. But I didn't really have options at that time. And then when I got to Xenoblade 2, that was just such a good game. I don't really have too many stories like that. That was just such a good game. My personal favorite story from playing Xenoblade 2 was I got to this area, and its music was so good. It was the music in it was all vocals. There wasn't a single instrument. It was like gospel vocals or church choir vocals, and it was like 2 in the morning. And all I did was I just put my controller down. I got a pillow off the couch, put it on the ground, went and laid down, and I just let the song loop for like 30 minutes. And I just laid there and cried. I don't know what it was, but the song, I had never heard a song like that in a video game in my life. It was, I don't know what it was. There's this one moment. I don't want to play the song at all because I don't want to ruin somebody's experience hearing it. But there's this one moment where there's a solo vocalist, and I had never heard a voice as pure as that. So every time that section would come on, it was sort of at the end of the song, it would just give me goosebumps and make me cry, and I would just loop it. It just looped over and over, and I just laid there and let it happen. I just let whatever wanted to flow out, and it felt great. And then I went and played the game, and it was just amazing. And then when I got back around to playing Blade 1's Definitive Edition, I was into it. I was doing every single side quest. I was going to beat every super boss. I was going to max out my character's levels. So what I did was, somebody online, thank you. They made an Excel document that had, like all the quests, everything you need on it is on there. So I rearranged all the quests. I organized it so it was extremely readable. And then as I went through the game, I had this Excel document up beside me on my laptop, and I would just log everything, track everything, make sure I'm getting every single thing done. And playing the game like that was so much fun. I got about, what was it, like 163 hours out of playing the game like that. It was an absolute joy, just completing everything. And I'm going to do the same again with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And I just have so many good memories with this series. And I just wanted to share all those memories. And I hardly even talked about how good the games themselves were, just because I have so many great memories that I remember specifically because of how good the games were. And I think that itself shows how important the series is to me. So that is the end of the video. Thank you everybody who stuck around for that. I hope my rambling wasn't too bad. I had a great time recording it, and I hope you had a good time listening, be it somebody who has played the series or not. And if you do have other stories with this series for people who have played it and just happen to be watching this video, please share some of your stories. I want to read them. But otherwise, that's it. Take care of yourself, everybody. Have a great day.